The moment you stop trying to be enough for everyone, you finally become enough for yourself. Letting go isn't weakness, it's the start of real strength. This story might just teach you how to live without fear of what they'll think. Stay with me till the end, because once you understand this lesson, you'll never live the same way again. There comes a moment when you're just tired of pretending, explaining, fixing, and chasing after the things that were never yours to keep. You wake up one day and realize the more you try to please everyone, the more you lose yourself. That's when life whispers, it's time. Time to stop caring about who approves, who stays, who understands. Because the truth is, peace doesn't come from being accepted, it comes from being free. There was a time when I thought caring meant love, kindness, and strength. I believed that if I just cared enough, if I tried hard, enough people would stay, things would work out, and life would reward me for being good. So I gave everything I had, my energy, my peace, my sleep, my voice. I cared about what people thought, what they said behind my back, whether they approved or not. Every smile I wore, every decision I made was shaped by invisible expectations I didn't even realize were controlling me. But caring too much can become a cage. It's like carrying 1,000 mirrors, each reflecting someone else's version of who you should be. And one by one, those mirrors start to crack under the weight of trying to keep everyone happy. You don't even notice when your own reflection disappears among them. I remember lying awake one night, replaying conversations, overthinking words, wondering if I said something wrong, if I disappointed someone again. My chest felt heavy, like my heart had grown tired of apologizing for simply existing. Then, one morning, I looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back. There was no spark, no freedom, just exhaustion wearing a polite smile. That's when something inside whispered, "You've cared enough. Too much." It wasn't anger. It wasn't rebellion. It was a quiet kind of truth. The kind that doesn't shout it, just waits for you to finally listen. I began to see how much I had sacrificed for approval. Every yes that I didn't mean, every forced smile, every moment I stayed silent when I wanted to speak it, all chipped away at my peace. I realized I wasn't being kind to others. I was being cruel to myself. And that S, when it hit me, caring about everything was actually keeping me from caring about what truly mattered. That morning, I didn't promise to stop caring. I just decided to care differently, to care enough about myself to say no, to walk away when my soul felt small. To stop chasing love that needed constant proof. It wasn't an overnight change, was like unlearning a language I had spoken all my life. But with each small step, each moment of honesty, I began to feel something I hadn't felt in years: lightness. The kind that comes when the weight of everyone else's expectations finally slips off your shoulders. It's strange how silence can teach you more than words ever could. When I stopped running after explanations and approval, I began to hear my own thoughts more clearly. The noise that once filled my days, the opinions, the judgments, the endless pressure to be perfect started to fade, and in its place came a kind of peace I didn't recognize at first. But peace, I learned, doesn't arrive gently. It comes with the ache of detachment, the discomfort of realizing how much of your worth was built on how others saw you. There were days when that silence felt unbearable. I'd reach for my phone, almost out of habit, to seek comfort in messages or distractions, but then I'd stop. The quiet would remind me no one else was responsible for filling the emptiness inside me. It wasn't loneliness I was feeling, it was space. Space to breathe, to think, to exist without pretending. And that realization hit harder than any heartbreak ever could. It was during those moments that I began to understand the difference between caring and depending. Caring comes from love. Depending comes from fear. I used to think I needed people's acceptance to survive, but what I really needed was my own. That shift didn't make life easier, it made it real. I started saying things I once swallowed, doing things without asking for permission, smiling without needing a reason. For the first time, I wasn't acting, I was simply being. People noticed the change. Some called it arrogance. Others said I'd grown distant. But what they didn't see was that I was finally becoming honest with them and with myself. I stopped explaining my choices to those who never cared to understand them. I stopped pouring into cups that only drained mine in return. The more I embraced the silence, the more I realized that peace, docent tea mean everything around you is comet, means you've stopped letting the chaos inside control you. There's a strange kind of power in that stillness. When you no longer fear being misunderstood, you start living from truth instead of approval. The quiet rebellion wasn't loud or dramatic. It was made of simple choices: walking away, staying calm, breathing deeply, and letting things be what they are. And slowly, that silence became my freedom. There came a moment when I realized that freedom wasn't loud. It didn't come with celebration or applause. It arrived quietly, in the most unexpected way, through letting go. I had spent so long gripping everything so tightly: relationships, opinions, plans, and outcomes. I thought control was strength, that caring about every detail made life meaningful. But the tighter I held, the more everything slipped through my fingers. Letting go felt like losing at first, like surrendering everything I once believed gave my life worth. Yet, as time passed, I began to see that release wasn't weakness, was the purest form of trust. I started living differently. I stopped forcing moments to be perfect. I stopped begging people to stay who were already halfway out the door. I stopped replaying conversations in my mind, trying to change the past that was never mine to fix. Instead, I began to live in the simplicity of what was. Breathing felt lighter, laughter came easier, and life finally began to flow again. There was power in realizing that peace doesn't come from control, it comes from surrender. From understanding that you cannot direct every wave, but you can learn to float. The more I let go, the more life gave back. Opportunities appeared without me chasing. The right people stayed without convincing. Even the wrong turns began to make sense in their own quiet way. Freedom wasn't about escaping responsibility, was about releasing the illusion that everything was mine to manage. I started trusting that whatever was meant for me would never need to be forced. And that's when I truly began to live not through perfection, but through presence. I found myself enjoying small things again: the sound of rain, the calm of solitude, the beauty of not needing constant validation. There was strength in not reacting to every noise, power in walking away without bitterness, grace in simply choosing peace over pride. When you stop caring about how you're seen, you start seeing clearly. You begin to move with life instead of against it. That's when real living begins, when your happiness no longer depends on what others think of you, but on how deeply you're willing to accept yourself. And in that quiet acceptance, everything you were chasing finally finds its way home. And in the end, I understood something I wish I had known all along: peace isn't found by fixing everything around you. It's found by freeing yourself from the need to. Day I stopped caring about proving, pleasing, and perfecting was the day I began to breathe for the first time. Life didn't suddenly become easier, but it became lighter. I learned that sometimes the most powerful act of strength is silence, the greatest victory is walking away, and the deepest healing comes from letting things simply be. When you stop caring about who doesn't understand your worth, you make room for those who do. When you stop chasing what was never meant to stay, you finally notice what has quietly been waiting for you all along: peace, purpose, and freedom. And maybe that's what living truly means: not the absence of chaos, but the courage to remain calm within it. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.